I've already know what my distance is to the target. I'm putting full focal point on broadside front shoulder, and I'm leaving that pin to blur so that all I've got to do is line up where I want and let that arrow fly.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And you know what I hadn't seen? I just thought of this, Camden, because it reminded me of something I needed to tell you about in your video. Eye movement and eye contact. We've had that discussion on a couple of those advertisements that I recorded, and my eyes were like, you could track my eyes like this as I'm trying to read the script.
Oh yeah. What's better, that where you're obviously reading a script, or like me where I can't stare straight forward and I got to keep doing this the whole time?
Yeah. Well, and our buddy Jason, I fussed at him about this, Mr. Daily Dose. Love you, Jason, but God darn it.
Good save.
Yeah, there we go. Gotta break the 3-minute barrier. It's funny because as a human, we have a tendency to, as I'm talking in a weird way, I'm watching myself on the TV. And in this case, maybe depending on whether or not, if you got this on the big screen, like I know all of our audience does, they got that 100-inch downstairs in the man cave, and they're sitting back in their loungers.
You joke about it, but last time I looked, I think about 5% of our views come on TV. So
there you go. You can see that my eyes are slightly below the camera because the camera's up here, but my eyes are down here. And you know what?
Up here.
Yeah, up here. That's right. We've all, as three fellas, I think we've all had that brought up to our attention. My eyes are up here.
Different problem set.
But you know what? It's a weird thing, and it's hard to do. There was a company I was thinking about buying their cameras that sits in the middle of the screen.
Yep, I was thinking of those, or like you mentioned, there's the AI tools that'll do it and get you perfect eye contact, which just gets a little bit freaky. But I think for both of those, it's one where, I don't know, even just me staring off like that for whatever the hell reason I was, we're real people. I don't know. I think that's the value to it.
There you go. This ain't no fakeness, folks. This is the real deal. Ain't no AI Otis and AI Camden.
No, sir.
Well, I don't know. Is there an AI Sam? My good buddy, Sam Westfall, Army veteran and entrepreneur, joining us. Sam, is that really you? Give us a little wave. Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
There you go. Double hand.
We'll have to see. Had to see on the password. I don't know. It's got that secret code we talked about, Sam, on the pre-show call. You got to remember.
I forgot that one already.
Yeah. Well, talking about eye contact, I was just thinking, man, there's nothing more important in archery than eye placement. And I'd love for you to just kind of walk through not an eye placement, sight picture. There we go. I had the phrase and then lost it and came it back. Sight picture as you're drawing back. You got that elk. You're out on the western slope, and it's September, and that's 6-pointer.
Talking my language.
Yep, that's 6-pointer. He's just screaming and hollering, and you've called him in with that little cow squeak, and he's about 35 yards away, coming up on broadside. What's the sight picture that we're getting?
So it depends, right? And for me, it depends on what's the interaction look like between the end of my bow and that elk. Is it full of limbs and trees? Then I'm probably going to go a single eye. If it's more open, where there's less limbs, trees, more open field, I'm going to go double eye open. And the goal from that is that with double eyes, you can make sure that you're focused not only on the sight picture and on the target, but you can actually see where things are going to land and how that animal moves after the fact. If I go single eye, because there's too much crap in the way. I'm strictly focused on how does that arrow fly into that animal? And to your point, what does that sight picture look like? Am I focused on the sight pin or am I focused on the target? I've already know what my distance is to the target. I'm putting full focal point on broadside front shoulder, and I'm leaving that pin to blur so that all I've got to do is line up where I want and let that arrow fly.
You kind of answered my question already there, Sam, but I'm curious. I know we're getting into some serious nuts and bolts here, but we're going to chase this rabbit, which is what matters more, the actual eye position or the act of the eye position that gets the rest of the body coordinated? Like, I think in rugby, Dad, one of the phrases, there's a lot of phrases in rugby, but we talk about like looking over your sunglasses. I don't need you to look at anything. It's about getting your head to do that little movement when you look over your sunglasses. Like the eyes don't matter as much as what it's getting you to do. What's the answer on that when it comes to the archery piece there?
So in archery, it's very different than rugby. It's just flat out, right? You're focused on your anchor point, where your hand is on the side of your face. You're focused on where that string's touching the end of your nose, the corner of your mouth, and where that peep sight is in relation to your eye. Now you're looking through that peep and finding your sight on the far side and making sure that peep is hovering over around the outside of that sight. Then you find your sight pin, make sure it's the right distance, blur that out, focus on that target, let it go.
So
there's a lot of mechanics in archery.
Yeah, and it takes lots of practice. Are you a fix on the target, bring the sight picture to the target, or are you a sight picture move to the target?
So I'm more focused on target acquisition first, then I'll focus on sight picture. And that's from being a bow hunter long before I was a competitive shooter. You find that target, you make sure you're lined up there, then you can figure out your focal point and your sight pin. Yeah.
That's good to hear, because that's the way I've always been shooting. So it'd been really hard if I had to change it. I've been doing it wrong all these years.
And it's not wrong. It's just what's the end goal, right? If you're a bow hunter, you want to find that target first. If you're a target archer, you want to find your pins first.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that's your margin of error in bow hunting is, truthfully,
minimal.
it's a lot better than it is in target, right?
Yeah. Yep.
What is the difference in the mental game for you, Sam, in those two different situations? Because both high pressure, but very different kinds of pressure. I guess you get the birds chirping in nature around you. That probably helps with the pressure a little bit on that. But you, of course, want to bring some food home, right? Talk me through a little bit of what that mental game looks like in those two different pictures there.
So for target archery, you're just focused on finding those circles on the backside of your pen. There's a lot of, if you're shooting 3D archery where it's lifelike looking animals and you're shooting with your buddies, it's camaraderie building. If you're shooting at circles, dots in a Vegas style shoot, it's all pressure because everybody and their brother's watching where you're shooting, how you're shooting, what your release looks like, and everything else. You go to the bow hunting side, and that's a totally different space, just because for me, being out in nature is calming. It's complete release and relaxation. Even for hunting, I'm already tired. I'm already exhausted because I've spent the last 3 days hiking up 9,000 foot elevation hills, 30-pound pack on my back. And when the animal steps out, it's just a factor of find the pin, find the target, let it go. Because I've already taken that shot 10,000 times on the ground before I ever went up the hill.
Are you a first shot, or are you a better shot when it comes to bow hunting?
So first shot is usually the one that puts them down. I would say 95% of the time it's first shot arrow that gets it done. I've had a couple animals where it was maybe a liver shot or maybe a little far forward in the lungs, so it didn't put them necessarily down as fast as I wanted to. One of the things that I practice and train with is a follow-up shot within 12 seconds. So first arrow's out the door, you've got 12 seconds to get another arrow knocked, find the target, let it go.
Let me rephrase it, because I was thinking of something, and I can't think I've ever bent your ear on this one. So sometimes you can take that 45-yard shot through the trees. Or you can say, well, he's coming this way. I'm going to be patient and wait for the 30-yard shot clear. That's what I was really getting at. So first shot, in other words, first point.
First opportunity.
Say again?
First opportunity.
Yeah, first opportunity. There you go.
Yep, and that's, for me, it is first opportunity. It's whatever I am comfortable making that shot. So pronghorn 4 years ago is 94 yards out. That's a poke with a bow. But I'm happy. I'm comfortable taking it. I know where it's going to land. Even with a little bit of stress and anxiety and lungs on fire, I know how to make that shot comfortably. So it's first opportunity to take that shot. If they're going to move in another 30 yards, there's no guarantees. That 30 yard, the wind may shift. It might blow them out. I'm not going to risk it.
How have you extrapolated that problem analysis live in that situation and kind of applied that elsewhere? Because I think that's a really, really interesting piece. As you're talking about this, of course, like I shot the crappy little plastic bow into your backyard several times, Dad, and that's about as far as my archery knowledge goes. So I'm hearing a bunch of different mechanic pieces.
No, it's not. It's a Genesis beginner bow. Sam would be very proud that that's what you learned on.
There we go.
That's what you started with. That's a quality bow to start with.
That's what I started and finished with, yeah.
we need to get you out to an event, and we'll show you how to really shoot.
All right, I'm all up for that. But as you're going through talking about it, there are all of these different mechanics, and layering those on top of each other in that moment to make that decision of if you're taking that shot or not. Where are you looking? All these other kind of things that we've talked about. How have you kind of extrapolated that into other areas of your life?
So that's a great question. What I found over the years, so bow hunter for the last 15 years, hunter for 36 years. You learn a lot of lessons when you're out in the woods. Otis will jump on that in a heartbeat. When you're out in the woods, you're always learning. So whether it's, what the animals see, smell, what the environment looks like, how the wind shifts, you get to understand some of that. When you bring that into your personal life or into your business life, you're just looking at it a little bit different to say, okay, things are going to happen. You need to be able to be comfortable and make those pivots, pivot fast, fail forward, and be able to adapt and overcome wherever you need to.
So let's talk about the entrepreneur side of life here, because bow hunting, as much as I know you would love to, you'd love to be
whole show.
Say again?
Whole show.
Yeah. Well, and not just that. I was going to say you'd also love to be Cameron Hayes, where that's all you do. Anything else is the hobby stuff. Bow hunting is the life. So, how have you changed or created a business that is integrated or out of this lifestyle? I mean, because bow hunting truly is. I mean, folks that really do it, it's a lifestyle, right? So how have you taken a lifestyle and converted it into entrepreneurship and business? Okay,
so can I go in a little bit of history here?
Yes, you may.
Please.
Cool. So Camden, you may or may not already know this. Otis may already tell you. I met Otis a couple years ago. I went through a Bunker Labs program, Veterans into Business. I was at a pitch night, and I presented Archery in Motion, which is my moving target business. Otis and I had a good conversation that spun up around archery and bow hunting, and that's kind of where we're at. So I started with Archery in Motion, the moving target business. I took that across the country in 2024, took it to 16 major archery events, almost 300,000 bow hunters put an arrow in it, and that was great. Everybody enjoyed it. Everybody thought it was a great novelty type thing, but nobody wanted to spend money on it. I made 3 sales in that year, not enough to make a business out of it.
Ouch.
But what I learned in all that,
dude. Wow.
What's that?
I didn't know it was that bad. Only 3. Wow.
Yeah, only 3.
Damn.
But what I learned out of all of that, not only going to the events, but kind of figuring out what those events did, what worked, what didn't, and how to play that and how to bring it into my own business, was I took all the things that I liked out of all those different events. I incorporated all those things that I liked, and I dropped all the things that I didn't. I watched some things that may or may not, depending on who you are, you may consider it a failure. I watched those things that fell to the wayside, and I went, I won't do that. pivoted the business a little bit. Archery in Motion still exists, but it's really incorporated into the Valor Archery Challenge now, to where now I'm the only event with true moving targets in the event. And that creates a totally different space. Watching groups like Total Archery Challenge or some of the others that are really focused on the extreme shooters, not necessarily bow hunters, but extreme shooters, is great. However, being able to bring rental gear to an event, and for those folks that Camden have never shot really, they want to come out and try, but don't want to spend the price tag on a $3,000 bow, they can come out and shoot for 40, 50 bucks. It just creates a totally different, unique space. Focused in the military veteran community, as archery as therapy, really opens the doors to a lot of veterans that need some type of outlet, and alcohol is not the right answer. Trust me, I know. So opening some doors, getting some folks interested, giving some opportunity for folks to come out and play, and creating a business around that has been far more successful than the Archery in Motion by itself, but hugely beneficial for me, not only as a entrepreneur, but also digging deeper into supporting the veteran community where I want to be.
I got to ask real quick, and I know this is very random, quick thing here. What the hell is the extreme shooting you were talking about? Are we talking like splitting arrows, like on some Robin Hood shit, or like what are we talking about?
No, we're talking 120 yards at serious angles.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. I just had to get a picture in my head because you said extreme shooting. I had no idea there. So thanks for that. What I'm curious about with this, as you went through that, that product development journey, what led you? Was it more the customer feedback or your personal taste? Because I always think it's interesting trying to balance those two of what are people telling you, but then also like, if it's something you actually love, what is your heart telling you along the way too?
So, and a lot of what Valor is all about is what I want to shoot as a pseudo competitive archer and bow hunter, is I want to play in a space where not necessarily everybody gets the opportunity to play in. The moving targets, again, I'm the only event that has them. So to say that I want to shoot moving targets, well, that's how I practice for bow hunting. That's a great practice tool for those that want to come out and play. If you look and dig deeper into the targets that I use, is a broad variety of targets, not necessarily just full-size elk and full-size mule deer. I bring porcupines or the platypus target out, cane toad, that's really going to make you work for it and make you rethink about how you shoot. And they're not at 4 feet; they're at 30 yards, which is a very small target for a poke.
And Sasquatch. Don't forget Sasquatch.
I do bring Bigfoot out. Yep.
Yes. Bigfoot visits the range when Sam's around. So,
always.
Who's bigger, Bigfoot or platypus?
Bigfoot's definitely bigger. The platypus it's true life-size platypus. Let's call it.
Oh, sorry. Bigger pole. Which gets more eyeballs?
I think they both get about the same because they're both on the course. They're both an opportunity to shoot at. You just got to figure out where you're going to play.
So let's. What was something that you really believed in the Archery in Motion business that you cut away, but was like, I want this piece so bad that it was all about Sam loving it, but nobody else was giving Sam some love. So what was something about that?
So the biggest piece for that was that moving target is really a unique thing. And like I said, everybody enjoyed shooting it. That was not the problem. The novelty aspect of it was the biggest piece of it. There are some older hunters or some different view on hunters that thought shooting at a moving target was unethical. And that created a little bit of spur and challenge around that. Now, I've hunted hogs in Texas. I've hunted whitetail up in Wyoming. I've hunted almost everything in Colorado, javelina down in New Mexico. None of those animals stop moving. They're always moving at a little bit of a pace, even a turkey, right? Whether you're shooting turkey with a shotgun or you're shooting it with a bow, they're always moving. Get comfortable taking that shot on a moving target. Long run is, and this was one of the things that I presented at that pitch night, was by practicing on that moving target, you're going to reduce the number of wounded animals overall across the country, which is about 300,000 big game animals are wounded non-fatally. So I wanted to change that perspective. It's still, that reason still exists, but bringing it into my own event just changed the ballgame altogether.
Oh, sorry, both taking notes at the same time on that.
Doesn't happen very often.
No, I'm curious with that. What are as you kind of zoom out of like the specific mechanism there of that of the accuracy piece and how you can kind of flip that ethical piece around. How have you used that in other areas to really tie into what the customers are getting at? Because I think that's the key there. Whether it's an ethical dilemma or any other aspect of the marketing, if I'm seeing something, there's probably a reason I'm seeing it. Whether you're on the same page as me or not, you could probably learn something and apply it to your product development. What are some other lessons along that line?
So there was a bunch of lessons learned as we went through the archery motion side of what's real, what's going to work, what's not going to work, what's a safety issue. So realizing after probably the third event that we needed to raise the antenna up on the wireless control up to about 2 foot high because some of the grasses were deep enough that I couldn't get a wireless control to work. So going through, and it's little lessons like that that you don't expect. When we were out in Pennsylvania, using it out there, it's a lot more muddy and rocky because it's always wet in Pennsylvania. It's a very different environment than what Colorado has. And so we learned a lot about that, having front and back mounts so the skid didn't slide. A lot of lessons learned along the way.
What's the key to keeping moving through those lessons and not getting caught up on them for too long? Or the type of thing of it's like going off the market for 2 months because you got to go fix some design flaw. But how do you keep fixing those while you're moving forward?
So the benefit, I have a buddy of mine that's really good at engineering. As a tank mechanic in the Army, I learned how to do some welding. So being able to say, hey, we need to engineer it, we need to restructure it this way, I'll go in the garage and just hammer it out. Really wasn't that big of a deal. I had the free time to do it anyway. So yeah, just make the modifications, figure out if it's going to work, test it, hammer it, test it, break it, hammer it, fail fast and fail forward.
So let's talk about the business side because that's what most of us struggle with. We can be passionate about it. We can give it away all day and feel great about giving it away. What has enabled you to say, all right, you got to pay $50 to shoot in this tournament?
So knowing being as I've shot all the rest of the events, like I said, I went across the country, shot those events, shot before I even had archery motion events. I know what most of them charge. I know what the goods and bads are of each of those, and taking all the pros and cons of each of those different events and saying, design an event around pros, leave the cons, drop the cons out of the way. So it's just a completely positive event, and build around that so that I know what it's going to be and it has a higher rate of success overall.
How did you communicate that piece? Because I think it's also that's a step that a lot of people get stuck on is, okay, I have all these things over here. Here's the 50 reasons why I'm better. If you want to sit and listen to me, getting that into a little blurb or, elevator handshake and those kind of things, that's a very different type of sales there.
It is. And if you ask me so one of the mentors that I had along the way said, you need to be able to describe your business in 7 words or less. Cool. Archery as therapy for military veterans.
Oh,
that describes what the business is. 7 words or less. Now, if that's going to get that spur that conversation to say, tell me more. All right, tell me a little bit more about it. Cool. Outdoor 3D archery events, 1.5 mile hike, $23,000 worth of raffle prizes, rental gear, coaching. That's why you want to come out. And just get very comfortable being able to speak to what you do.
And
what do you think? I'm curious if you had trouble making that step, and if so, if you have any idea what are the things that people get caught up on? Because when you can rattle it off with that 7, hey, that sounds pretty damn good. What do you think is the thing that gets people stuck making that step out? Is it just I'm too special, I've got too much to say type of thing, or what?
I think that's what a lot of it is they want to tell you everything about what they do, and it doesn't. They want to get specific into everything that they want to do, right? A financial planner wants to say, I want to go deep into how I can help you, blah, 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 blah. And that's great. In insurance sales, I do specialized insurance sales, blah, 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 blah. That's great. But being able to refine what you're truly focused is, that's a whole different spectrum. And that opens the doors a lot deeper.
Yeah. And the next thing, pardon me, the next thing you got to do is get it out there. So what's been some of the processes that you've done to get the word out?
You're leading the horse to water here, Otis. So, as Otis knows, I'm a Veteran Beer Club ambassador for Colorado Springs. So I talk about it at every monthly Veteran Beer Club event. I am a Syracuse University IVMF ambassador. So I talk about it at all of those different events. I'm a Veteran Entrepreneur Network ambassador for Colorado. I talk about it at all those events. And if that's not enough, I am heavy on social media across LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. The social media is fairly heavy, especially right now, ramping up towards the actual event season. So have probably 2 to 3 posts a day going out. It's just go to the networking events. I don't do a business card. I actually hand out wristbands instead because it grabs more people's attentions. It doesn't get lost in a pocket. It goes on people's wrists and they realize it 2 weeks later that they're still wearing it. So it's, yeah.
Those folks need some help. If they 2 weeks later
works.
They look down and go, what the hell? Where'd that come from?
It works.
Who's this guy Sam to put something around my wrist?
And you got the website right on there. Don't worry.
Now, that happens late into the Veterans Beer Club nights. That's where.
Yep. After they had 1 or 2, it automatically goes to the wrist. They forget
just
about it.
slipping them on. He's good at it. Watch out, folks.
You could take a marketing course or take a little magic course, start slipping wristbands onto people. It might be more worth your money.
It works.
Talking about more worth your money with that, funny enough. What was your process, Sam, for picking and choosing those networking battles? 'Cause I think that's one thing that people can fall that trap into. If it's like, I need to go to every expo, I need to be at all of these things and spending all this money, and then you don't really get much from it. You got to pick and choose your fights a little bit better with that. What was your process there?
You are spot on with that. I've tried all the different networking events across Colorado Springs, and what I found is that anything associated with alcohol works better for me. Because if you go to certain events, swing around, you'll hit 5 realtors, 4 mortgage lenders, half a dozen insurance folks, and a couple financial folks. And that's great. And I understand they all want to talk and they all want to work together and partner. I play in a very different space in the archery world. And so those type of events, those structured events, aren't necessarily the right space for me because I can't necessarily have some of the conversation. Versus if I go to networking events that are wrapped around happy hours, like Otis said, people get a beer in them, I hand them a wristband, we start talking archery or bow hunting, and that conversation just carries for hours.
Is there just brought up a thought. We always say we recognize our own, right?
True.
What's the bow hunter far recognition signal?
So it depends on what's openly exposed, right? So if it's clothing, if they're wearing some hunter related clothing, whether it's Kuiu, Sitka, First Light, whatever the case may be, that's an obvious standout. If they've got tattoos that are exposed that look or appear hunting related, has a skull or an antler on it, silhouetted in the mountains, those are obvious giveaways. Then there's a few folks that you don't necessarily expect until you start talking to them about, what I do. And as soon as I say, archery event, they'll jump right on it and say, okay, let's have a conversation around that.
I'm asking this because this is where I thought your question was going, and this is a little bit sillier, but I'm going to ask it, Sam. What came to mind with that was I thought you were going to ask Dad about the the signals of if somebody's doing it right or not. Talk about watching movies and those kind of things. Hunger Games came to mind. What's her name? Katniss with the bow there. Sam, is there can you give me, I'll boil the question down so we can stay on track, get back there in a second. Can you give me one good example of a bow in a movie and one crappy one?
I would actually struggle with most of the Hollywood movies, especially if they're using recurves. If the instant they stand that bow completely vertical, that arrow typically falls off. Most good traditional shooters will keep the bow at a cant, and that's how they're shooting. Compound shooters, a little bit different story. Most of those are fairly accurate. Most of them also have horrible draw cycles. I like to see high elbows when people draw back. That way you're using all the big muscles instead of the small shoulder muscles, but that's just me.
So not John Rambo in First
Not a
War
good,
2
not a good
or
example.
whatever that was.
Yeah, nope.
Where he shoots the arrow and blows up the helicopter. I bet you
That's
he
right.
was using a moving target to practice to do that.
I'm sure he wasn't.
Come on, I had archery skills as part of the Q course. Come on.
Yeah, I bet you did, but I'm sure it's limited on what you're shooting at.
Yeah. So how do you grow archery? I mean, is tournament the right word? Is that what we're going to? Is that the category?
You can go that route. I consider them fun shoots because there's no scorecards, there's no egos.
Okay.
I will have one true competition later this year. We'll have scorecards. It has some prizes associated with it, but for the most part, my events are no scorecards and no egos because it really just get out and play. If you think about the different organizations that run structured archery events, archery tournaments, there are very specific sets of rules around what you can and can't do with those targets. No steel, no moving targets. Everything has to be full broadside, nothing more than 40 yards or 45 yards. And I break every one of those rules because I just don't agree with them. And that's why I went and did my own thing, because then I can play in a totally different space and I can challenge those that want to be challenged, or I can take a brand new archer and let them experience what archery should be, fun.
I'm surprised at the no steel because when I took my archery certification in Alaska, we had to shoot at steel silhouettes and hit the hole where the vitals were in the silhouettes. Let's just say a few of the classmates, spent some extra dollars to.
Yep, came back a few errors short.
Yeah.
There's your incentive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially nowadays, of what the cost of an arrow is.
Right.
Goodness gracious. So,
Sam,
go ahead, Cam.
Sam, talking about the marketing, getting more folks involved. How do you look at it? And I'm guessing it's a mix here, but it's two different schools of thought. I'd love to hear your opinion on, which is the growing the slice of the pie versus growing the whole pie. Are you trying to get more people into archery and then therefore they come and spend time with you? Or are you trying to be the best thing in archery and growing your own slice of that pie? Like I said, I'm sure there's a mix of it there, but I'd love to hear your thought on those two philosophies.
It's definitely a little bit of both there. Like I said, for those that have never shot before yourself, that really want to come out and try archery for a low price tag, I want to grab a hold of those because I think there's an opportunity for not only for them to experience archery and what it should and could be, but it also introduces them for a low value point. And then the other side, for those experienced bow hunters that may or may not want to drive to the other side of the state to go shoot a total archery event, hey, you've got something right here on the front range, far more cost effective and equally as challenging compared to what's over there.
So what's coming to my mind is scaling. So is this the hub? Everything comes here. Is there a vision that it's a road show? What are you looking towards?
There's Top Golf. There's the axe throwing. You just go right next building down. Come on.
Talk more about that, but I don't want that being out public. Because I have a friend who had some thoughts on that.
So I think definitely for 2026, it is a Colorado only event. As we scale into 2027, 2028, I've already got invites to host an event up in South Dakota or even out of state. It's just a factor of finding the right venue, right location to where it makes sense from a cost perspective, and then it will start to grow a little bit more. Some of the, let's call it the lower states, Texas and down, They warm up a little sooner in the season where I could go host an event February, March instead of wait until the very end of April. So I could start to have more events and build it from there.
I got a December place for you. Come on out to the desert, man.
Arizona?
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
That's when you want to be there is December, January.
That's the only time you want to be there.
No kidding.
So, the travel and roadshow, throw all the targets in the trailer and haul the truck, right?
That's what I do now. It's, depending on where the venue is I load the trailer for what I need plus 3 or 4 extra targets in case I need to adapt. And then we load the trailer and rock and roll up to where I need to be, dip it out, set everything up. We run that target setup happens the day before the event. The event happens on a Saturday. We tear down on Sunday and drive it all back.
So what's the land required? Just for listeners that are out there that are thinking, okay, well, yeah, but I don't have enough, whatever. Or what's the land requirement that you need?
So I try to focus, especially if you're talking about a 30 target course, I try to focus somewhere around at least 9 to 12 acres. That way I got plenty of distance and variance between targets, especially for those new archers that may or may not know the safety and kind of what those protocols are. I build that, incorporate that into the course itself. So it gives plenty of distance and that 15-degree field of fire, so that there's no safety issues along the way.
I'm curious with that, talking about where you're at now and looking at some of that path forward. How have you managed to balance the excitement and the following the new leads and, like the come down to Tucson and those kind of things there with okay, I've got to make sure I'm doing this the right way and not growing too fast, not taking on, more than I can handle?
That's a great question. I haven't quite figured out the answer to that one yet.
Well, perfect, Sam, because I got a guy in Tucson. He's got 12 acres, so we could get this deal worked out before you get wise up on it. All right,
figure it out. Man. As long as like a couple places, I went on to online mapping software and kind of planned out what it would look like, even without even stepping foot on the ground. It gave me an idea of what I could build and kind of how I could build it. It also gave me a perspective of what their venue even looks like. So utilizing tools before I even get there to see what it's going to be.
How much of that aspect of it is I always think there's these fun little creative aspects inside of the business where I think we tend to have the most fun. Is that one of them as far as like customizing the day of and getting that all perfect?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the events that are here in Colorado, like here at Fort Carson, I'll go down on a Wednesday. I'll break out the brush hog. I cut a path in the weeds and scrub. That way you've at least got a path to walk on. Thursday I'll go out and I'll flag it, make sure the target where I want the targets are going to be. Take the weed eater, weed out a spot for where the target's going to be and then where the shooting station is going to be. Friday the targets go up. Saturday's the event. Sunday we tear it all down. But that kind of to your point, that design of what does that look like over the course of those 3 or 4 days really gets to be a lot of fun. Friday's miserable because it's carrying everything, but other than that, it's just a lot of fun getting everything set up. But even setting up the targets themselves is, okay, do I put it at this angle or this angle? Walk back to the shooting station, right? No, it needs to be a little bit this way. Nope, I can crank that next one a little bit more to where it's almost frontal or Texas heart shot. Yeah.
So you just need to take them motion carts that you got and just program the locations and have them things take all the targets out.
That would be easier.
That's next level. That's what
it is. We're not there yet,
feeling, right?
Can't be that far off. We got what? We got robot food delivery stuff here at the U of A campus. There's a robot that comes out, paints the lines on our rugby field. Yeah, we could get a little robot you could shoot some stuff at. We gotta be there.
Yeah.
If not now, next year. That's gotta be a 2027 goal at least.
Right. The problem is that your firearms are one thing. You can heavily armor all of the firearm related robots, and that's one thing. Arrows, while they don't necessarily have the same penetration as the bullet does, they have more unique penetration. There's a lot more kinetic energy coming through, and if it's not the right steel and it's not just a angled piece of steel, it might jump in there and hit the electronics.
Which got me thinking, or leads me to something I have been thinking, because I've got a picture of a honey badger up on my computer. And how often? What's the life cycle on a honey badger or Sasquatch?
They're about 4,000 arrows, so that's easily a year, if not 2 years worth of wear and tear. I can do a little bit of repairing along the way to keep them for a little bit longer, but realistically, it's about 2 years.
Repair? You mean like just a little bit more paint on them to cover it up? Is that what you?
You can repair some of the foam. You got to auger it out, and there's a foam filler compound that you can rebuild some of them.
It shows you.
I'm picturing the waterfall foam, Dad.
Yeah, well, that probably wouldn't be bad. But my one 3D target I had, I didn't shoot at it that much to wear it out. The sun actually wore it out more than the arrows did. Let's just say. So
that's a horrible problem.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you live at 7,000 feet too. Anything sitting out in the sun, or if you're down in the desert with Camden,
that's just heat wear and tear down there.
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah.
Between the UV and the heat, them deers would. That poor honey badger that I'm looking at, he'd probably melt and just be a puddle.
Yeah.
That's why the deer just across the border down south here are so freaking small. Yeah, they're scrawny little suckers down here.
Yeah,
not much to eat.
Nope, got to kill a lot of them. So, I was just thinking, I love the thought of the target acquisition and how I don't know where I learned it. I don't know if I learned it in Boy Scouts with the fiberglass longbow with a matchstick as my aiming point.
Yep.
Yeah, with little, you remember that, the little rubber band to hold the matchstick on there for your aiming point? Yeah, brother. That's old school teaching there. But what I learned. Say again.
Thanks for aging me.
Yeah. You're a couple of days behind me still, so that's all right.
Not much.
But what I learned was, and I think it was last week's or maybe the week before, a very recent Monday Moments newsletter. I talked about something very similar. Of you can have a freaking good idea all day long that everybody says, "Oh, that's really cool," and Archery in Motion was that. That's really cool. But man.
But if you're not getting people to buy it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So the lesson is, hey, have all your great ideas. Go build it in the garage. Don't think that's going to be your business. You got to do what everybody wants. You got to do what your market wants and figure that out. And I applaud you. And I think you did such a great job of pivoting off of, that little truck that was really cool. I mean, I told you. That's really cool, but I ain't got one in my yard, and I love you. So that tells you something right there. So that's what I learned again, because I think that's such a key point that every entrepreneur really needs to hear and be reminded of consistently. Yep. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
I got a double whammy because I was thinking back to, you mentioned the Genesis bow and how I called it the crappy bow. And I was like, why did I think that? It's because you had, not that at each school I was at, but a couple of the schools I was at, middle school, high school, you had bows in the school. And to think that they have apparently the good one, I guess taxes are good and we should keep paying them and all those kind of things, because apparently they're doing the right thing when it comes to archery in school, at least. But that, and then the double whammy there is the bow at the angle, because that, as the more I thought about that, Sam, I would almost think that was a dead giveaway that wasn't real, because it's like you're trying to look cool or something. What do I know?
Like the gangster with the pistol.
It's the gun. Yeah, it's the gun sideways.
That's it.
Sam, how about you, brother? What'd you learn?
You hit the nail on the head with being able to pivot your business. If you're not making the sales, if it's not going the route you want, be able to either pivot or realize that that's not the right business plan and find something different. I wanted to keep Archery in Motion. I still think it has a potential to go somewhere down the road. But integrating it into my own event was by far the smartest thing I've done.
And it's free advertisement too.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah. Well,
Doesn't hurt.
free, right?
Right.
We all know what that means.
Right.
Yeah, Sam, when's the next event? Because I know the season's starting. And how do folks find you and follow you?
Outstanding. So, event season kicks off April 25th right here in Fort Carson. We run every other Saturday from April through October. The October event will be themed, so most of the targets will be decorated for Halloween. It's just a totally different event. Let's just call it what it is. So 10 events, like I said, $23,000 worth of prizes to give away. That's split across the 10 events. That's a huge prize bucket to give away. And I have to give it all away. So, I need people to come out, come shoot, have fun, and take some home with you, because I don't want to keep it in my basement. How do they find me? ValorArcheryChallenge.com or on any of the social media platforms at Valor Archery Challenge.
And he is active, folks. I know we've had a few of our guests on here that say that. He's on there. So that's where you can get him, hit him up, get the details, and hope to see you out there after my shoulder gets repaired. So
we'll get you out there.
Yeah.
I got a kid's bow, 15 pounds for you.
That may be too much. Sam,
I got a silly question. I'm sorry, I got to ask it.
I got silly answers. Let's see if they match.
Awesome. I got one more. You thought you'd get away. Which shoulder is archery harder on? Back shoulder or front shoulder? You're talking. So if you do it right, using the big back muscles, I'm guessing it's easier on this shoulder because the stabilizing. But yeah.
So there's a difference there, right? If you're pulling a traditional bow, a recurve bow, as you increase your draw length, as you draw back farther, the weight gets heavier. So that's putting more weight across both shoulders. You're pushing the bow out with the front shoulder, which means it's stressing, trying to push that ball into the socket a little deeper, which may or may not be comfortable. And then as you're pulling that string back a little farther, you're using those big back muscles, but that back shoulder is not necessarily getting a whole lot of wear and tear. It's all the front shoulder. Compound's opposite. You get all that draw weight up front, you hit the cams, and then all of the draw weight relaxes. But it's that back shoulder and the back muscles that have to hold that weight for longer periods of time.
All right. I'm glad I asked. Ask your silly questions, folks.
right.
Always.
Yep. Sam, man, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day today to spend it with us.
I appreciate you all having me on. It's been an awesome conversation.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Sam Westfall, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, that full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again. We'll see you all next time.